Fáilte roibh isteach chuig an ceolchoirm Radharc Siar, the Drogheda Harp Story. This is a concert which will feature music from the original 1844 concert presented by the Drogheda Harp School and reimagined by our narrator, Dr. Teresa O'Donnell, with harpers Cormac de Barra, Deirdre Granville, Anne-Marie O'Farrell, Deirdre Ní Wuchla, Una Ní Lánagain and fiddle player Jerry O'Connor.
In January 1842, a harp society was established in Drogheda by the Dominican Father Thomas V. Burke. The society had three objectives: the encouragement of abstinence from alcohol, the promotion of a positive national identity through the revival of an interest in the Irish harp, and lastly, the provision of musical education for the children of some of the members of the Drogheda New Abstinence Society. The Harp Society was one of four societies established between 1808 and 1845 to generate an interest in Irish harp performance. A school was the central pedagogical component of each of the societies, and the schools at Belfast and Dublin catered predominantly to children from lower socio-economic backgrounds with visual impairments. In 1840, James MacDonald and others unsuccessfully attempted to revive the Irish Harp Society in Belfast, which ceased activities in 1839 due to lack of resources. In the 1840s in Drogheda, however, the Irish harp was enthusiastically embraced as part of a wider revival of interest in Gaelic culture and a movement to promote sobriety. The prominence and ubiquity of the Irish harp as a visual and verbal metaphor in the late 18th and early 19th centuries and in the politics of Daniel O'Connell's Repeal Association contributed to a resurgence of interest in Irish harp performance. The harper's repertoire adapted to reflect 19th century musical and political tastes and increasingly defined itself in terms of contemporary political discourses. In addition to the compositions of Carolan, the Canellans and their contemporaries, Irish harp repertoire included the popular patriotic songs of Thomas Moore and pieces referring to influential historical figures such as Brian Boru. The musical legacy of the Drogheda Harp Society profoundly influenced the Irish harp tradition for decades after its demise. Today, we celebrate through song and historical narrative a concert of the Drogheda Harp Society held at the Mayoralty Rooms, Drogheda on the 19th of February 1844. We are fortunate to have harpers from around Ireland to perform a selection of pieces played by 6 students of the Drogheda Harp Society and their teacher, Hugh Fraser, in this historic High Lanes Gallery, former church of the Franciscan Order, which they gifted to the people of Drogheda in 2000. The grand concert of the Drogheda Harp Society, held on the 19th of February 1844, commenced at 7:30 p.m. with doors open from 6:30. Harp teacher Hugh Fraser and his student Mr. MacIntaggart opened the concert with The Rising of the Lark and The Harmonious Blacksmith. Harp duets such as Planxty Connor, The Lord Mayo and The Minstrel Boy were performed by masters Halpin and Dowdall. Miss Fagan performed Love's Young Dream and The Fairy Boy, which was followed by 3 solos from Mr. MacIntaggart, and 3 further duets performed by Hugh O'Hagan and J. Brannigan. Other music performed on the night included Carolyn's Concerto on Julian and Planxty Maguire. This was complemented by a selection of Irish airs sung by gentlemen amateurs. Admission to the concert was 1 shilling. An advertisement for the concert appeared in the Drogheda Argus newspaper, appealing to the men and women of Drogheda to support the concert and the society. It read, "Ladies of Drogheda, the harp of Erin ought not to be neglected, more especially now while the virtue of her sons is the subject of many national and soul-stirring melodies. For what but the national instrument should celebrate national honour?" The journalist then addressed the men of the town. "Gentlemen, men and patriots of Drogheda, give to the sacrifices and labours of the founders of the society due encouragement, patronage and support, and ere long the sound of the harp shall be heard in every town and village in Ireland, and in the hours of their social joy will acknowledge a debt of gratitude to the taste, talent and spirit of your town, and the honour of its revival shall ever live with the people of Drogheda." Since medieval times, Drogheda was considered an important port. At the turn of the 19th century, the textile industry was the most important industry in Drogheda. Industrialisation in the early 19th century transformed the town. It became renowned for heavy ironworks, building railway carriages, wagons, and locomotives. The establishment of the Drogheda Steam Packet Company in 1826 provided shipping services to Liverpool, and a gas works was set up in 1832. According to Anne Hughes's History of Drogheda, in 1830 the town boasted 105 licensed traders, including 3 brewers, 44 grocers and spirit dealers, and 61 pubs. By 1837, the population was circa 17,000 people, around 15,000 of whom lived in the town. Drogheda was an ideal location for a society that would promote aspects of Gaelic culture. Johann G. Cole, a German visitor to Drogheda in 1843, assessed the political and religious significance of the town as follows. Drogheda is the last genuine Irish town. Farther north, everything becomes more Scotch than Irish. In Drogheda, the population is still almost exclusively Catholic, and this city is therefore a great darling of O'Connell's and most zealous in his cause and that of repeal. The suburbs of Drogheda are genuine Irish suburbs, composed of wretched, dirty hovels, and a great many people are to be found in the neighbourhood who speak the old Irish mother tongue more fluently and frequently than English. The prevailing nationalist sentiment in these pre-famine years ensured support for the preservation and revival of Irish music and culture. Burke's cultural and nationalistic endeavours were appreciated by most locals. A reviewer in the Drogheda Argus newspaper proudly applauded Drogheda for being the only town in Ireland making efforts to restore the harp to its rightful place of honour in Irish society. The reviewer noted, "Drogheda, we believe at present, is the only town in Ireland in which the harp is being revived. And we say it to the honour of our good town. But whilst we are vain of our boast, we do not forget to remember that this credit is chiefly owing to the patriotism and pecuniary sacrifices of the Reverend Thomas V. Burke, who, almost unaided, has called this society forth." Unfortunately, such praise was absent from articles about the society in another local newspaper, the Drogheda Journal. One reviewer described a performance by members of the Drogheda Harp Society as a dumb pantomime performed on clumsy triangular instruments from which they elicited sounds the most woeful I ever heard. This kind of negative commentary reflects the political and cultural divisions which existed in Drogheda at this time. Father Burke believed that the music of the Irish harp had the potential to transform the lives of the people of Drogheda for the better. Burke had been the driving force behind the formation of several societies in Drogheda, including a local temperance society, and was aware of the sense of despair which pervaded the lower classes in Drogheda in the 1830s and 1840s. He was president of the Gaelic Society and in 1839 founded the Society for the Revival of Irish Music and Song. The Society's objective was to collect and publish in their original simplicity, beauty and impressiveness the bardic remains of Louth. Born in Kildare in 1801, Burke joined the Dominican order and served as prior of the Dominican Priory in Drogheda from 1837 to 1838 and again in 1839 to 1842. His enthusiastic devotion of the temperance movement to Irish music and to the Irish language was part of an altruistic belief that the loss of national pride and culture was reflected in the growing despondency in Irish society, manifested through the excessive consumption of alcohol, in particular amongst the lower classes. His political sympathies were pro-repeal of the Act of Union and pro-Daniel O'Connell. He was part of the platform party at O'Connell's pro-repeal meeting in Drogheda on the 10th of June 1843. Harpers from the Society performed at that meeting in Drogheda and at the Monster meeting at Tara on the 15th of August 1843, and also at various other gatherings supporting the repeal of the Act of Union. His desire to revive the harp reflected his political agenda and also Ireland's struggle for freedom against oppression. He noted, "Not only have we been the first to string the national instrument, but we have constructed it on a new and improved plan. And with the blessing of heaven, its chords shall never be broken or unstrung by discord or foul rebellion." We are fortunate to have many of Father Burke's speeches which he delivered at concerts, gatherings and meetings. Repeatedly, he expressed the view that alcohol was the demise of the Irish nation, but that abstinence could save the reputation and morality of Irish people. He mourned the loss of the harping tradition and erosion of Irish culture. Burke believed that the revival of the harp would be a conduit for improving moral standards and re-establishing a national cultural identity based on a glorious Irish past, all of which would be achieved by uniting people under the banner of temperance. Father Burke commissioned Francis Flood, a carpenter from Drogheda, to make Irish harps for the Society that were financially and musically accessible. Wood for the instruments was sourced from the estate of the Ball family of Ballgrove's house overlooking Drogheda. 12 harps were produced at a cost of £3 each. Flood's harps were simpler in design and form when compared with early 19th century instruments manufactured by John Egan and others. Burke promoted Flood's harps as instruments capable of inspiring its practitioners and audiences to recapture aspects of the lost utopia of early Christian Ireland. He wrote, "We have so simplified its construction as to place it within the circumstances of the most humble. Now we must respectfully pray to its encouragement amongst the temperance societies, to build up the Irish character to the beautiful and grand proportions of its ancient piety and glory, and Ireland will be again, as of old, the land of the bard and the saint." Luckily, the harp belonging to one of the students of the society, William Griffith, has survived. The harp is about 5 feet in height, with a high head, a rounded body, and dark in colour with edges painted gold. The soundboard boasts depictions of Brian Boru, the monastic settlement at Monaster Boyce near Drogheda, a papal cross, the keys of St. Peter, and pink roses. 3 patriotic inscriptions also feature on the soundboard, surrounded by shamrocks. These include Éireann go Bragh, Ireland Forever, which featured on the flag of the United Irishmen of 1798, Éire Óg, Young Ireland, the political and cultural movement whose members carried out a failed uprising in 1848, and lastly, Inish na Naomh, Island of the Saints. Hugh Fraser, a former student of Edward MacBride at the Second Irish Harp Society of Belfast, was appointed professor with a salary of £27. 15 pupils, 2 of whom were blind, were registered for lessons in the first year. This figure later rose to 16. At an informal recital at the Linen Hall, Drogheda, on the 1st of November 1842, to mark the 3rd anniversary of the foundation of the Society of the Revival of Irish Music and Song, Burke spoke enthusiastically about the considerable achievements of the Harp Society in its first year, and also his vision for the future. He stated, "What were we," said he, 3 years ago? A people scattered and scorned and trodden down under the burden of intemperance, ignorant alike of the blessings of social comforts and rational amusements. What are we now? Untied under the banner of temperance, our physical and moral condition improved, and our national character respected. This night 12 months ago, we had not one in our society who could strike the harp. Now, we have in our Drogheda Irish Harp Society more harps and harpers than are to be found in Ireland altogether." Burke's words of inspiration to the audience reflected his vision for the future of the Irish harp tradition. The Society's first public concert, held on the 19th of February 1843 at the Mayoralty Rooms, Drogheda, was a seminal moment in the revival of Irish harp performance in Drogheda and its environs. The concert, which began with a recital by Hugh Fraser of Remember the Glories of Brian the Brave, Brian Boru's March, and Let Erin Remember the Days of Old, was followed by performances of Planxty Power, The Minstrel Boy, The Meeting of the Waters, The Irish Volunteer, The Lord of Mayo, and Planxty Connor by some of the Society's students, including Miss Flynn, Hugh O'Hagan, Jay Brannigan, and Messrs Halpin, McIntaggart and Dowdall. A review of the concert in the Drogheda Argus alluded to two blind boys who were members of the Society, and also stated that these boys could now make a living for themselves without being a burden on society. The concert programme is indicative of the transformation which occurred to harp repertoire during the first half of the 19th century and included a number of Thomas Moore's Irish melodies. Burke often referred to the close connection between Moore's melodies and the Irish harp. While supervising the completion of one of the Society's harps, he was sent a copy of an Irish translation of The Harp That Once Through Tara's Halls, and interpreted the coincidence as a propitious omen that the harp and the melodies shall travel together. Johann G. Cole, the German visitor to Ireland I mentioned earlier, attended a soirée at the Dominican Friary in Drogheda and later published a detailed account of it. The evening commenced with recitations of Gaelic verse, and these were followed by a young blind harper who played Brian Boru's March, a piece which Cole described as at once the music of victory and mourning and as rousing as the celebrated La Marseillaise and the Ragotsky March. In the harper's performance, Cole observed the potential of the instrument to inspire the Irish people. He observed, "When the Irish listen to these old airs and think of these old deeds, while their hearts beat at the remembrance of their ancient glory, they do not forget their present degradation and look forward with almost as much confidence to a free and glorious future as they look backwards to a free and glorious past." The concert we celebrate here today in music and words, held on the 19th of February 1844 at the Mayoralty Rooms, was the final public concert attended by Father Burke, who died in October 1844. The following year, the Drogheda Harp Society was dissolved. In the Nation newspaper on the 9th of November 1844, the writer observed that a more truly amiable and excellent clergyman, a purer philanthropist, a better patriot never breathed the breath of life. His indefatigable efforts for some years past to extend the sacred cause of temperance, to promote a general taste for our national instrument, the harp, and to further the struggle for domestic legislation will long embalm his memory in the grateful recollection of all good Irishmen. These sentiments were echoed in the anti-union newspaper, the Freeman's Journal, and also in the pro-union Drogheda Conservative Journal. The harpers tutored at the Drogheda Harp Society continued to perform in the environs of Drogheda until the end of the 19th century. Some former students, such as Peter Dowdall, the clerk of the union, were accomplished performers on the harp, while others taught harp in the area for many years after. Hugh O'Hagan, referred to as the last native harper of County Louth, died in the late 19th century. Attempts were made by two priests to form an Irish Harp Society in Kilkenny and to engage Hugh Fraser as professor, but there is no evidence that this plan came to fruition. The devastating effects of the famine from 1845 onwards put an end to any future efforts to revive the harp. The closure of the Harp School in Drogheda in 1845 marked the end of a particular model of cultural transmission of Irish harp repertoire and technique espoused by the Irish Harp Societies in Belfast, Dublin and Drogheda. The various societies achieved the dual successes of sustaining temporarily a tradition in decline and uniting those with divergent political views in the pursuit of common cultural and altruistic goals. At the end of the 18th century, the future of the harp tradition was in doubt. But even in its weakened state, members of the Irish Harp Society recognised the capacity of the Irish harp to inspire zeal and patriotism amongst Irish men and women, and to effect social and political change in Irish society. By the mid-19th century, the Irish harp tradition was in an equally precarious state, but the efforts of Father Thomas Burke, Edward Bunting, James MacDonald and others ensured that a living yet fragile tradition would be perpetuated through another generation of Irish harpers.